Engineered for the world.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Selom Adunu. What the Papers Are Saying is your weekly current affairs program that discusses major headlines as reported by news website portals and tabloids. We'll return, discuss the headlines, the top headlines. You're welcome back. So this week, a number of stories have made the headlines. We've chosen 4 of the most topical ones. One is the Agyapa royalty deal. Government of Ghana is established a special purpose vehicle to help manage and monitor our royalties from the mineral deposits or finds. Also, there's been some activity also ongoing at the Domi-Fase area where land disputes resulted in some clash between 2 communities and some military persons were injured. A number of military personnel were deployed into the area, leading to injuries and the whole town being deserted. We will delve into that as well. And then the promise of legalizing and regulating Okada. Is it the way to go? And what about the other pros and cons that have come with this particular proposition by former President John Mahama? We will delve into that as well. And also, the MPP launched its manifesto on Saturday. A number of interesting initiatives have been proposed. We will look at that as well. So what really have the papers been saying? Let me take you through a list of the headlines as I have here. One, from citynewsroom.com, government explains motive for basing Agyapa royalties in tax haven. Citynewsroom.com, again, government has been very transparent in Agyapa royalties deal. That is upon Nkrumah speaking. CSOs defend calls for suspension of Agyapa royalties deal. Daily Graphic, Agyapa royalties goes public, list on Ghana London Stock Exchange by December. The Finder, Agyapa royalties beneficial, it will not add to debt burden, government get lump sum, regular dividends, Edu Boahin. The New Crusading Guide, I will cancel Agyapa royalties deal if I'm elected president, Mahama brags. The Finder, no interest, principal repayments under Agyapa royalties deal upon Nkrumah. The New Publisher, I will cancel shady Agyapa deal, pro-PDS, Mahama warns Akufo-Addo. The New Crusading Guide, Agyapa deal sends bad signals to investors, said Tekwe. We go to our second story for tonight. Clashes at Domi-Fase. Citynewsroom.com. Domi-Fase residents hesitant to return home despite reduced military presence. Citynewsroom.com again. Military officers deployed to Domi-Fase harass CTFM, CTTV reporters. Citynewsroom.com. Domi-Fase boundary issues must be immediately resolved. Captain So. The Chronicle. Military deploys 300 soldiers, choppers, in search of 2 missing rifles. Ghanaian Times. Military personnel besiege Domi-Fase after mob attack on 2 soldiers. Daily Post. Akufo-Addo exposes Ghana Armed Forces to public ridicule as he withdraws the troops from border areas, though COVID-19 is not over. And next topic, legalization of Okada and matters arising. CityNewsroom.com. It's shocking Mahama wants to legalize Okada because of votes. Yofi Grant. CityNewsroom.com. Why didn't Mahama legalize Okada when he was president? Ambrose Derry asks. CityNewsroom.com. Okada Association welcomes Mahama's promise to legalize business. Daily Heritage. Imani backs Okada business. Daily Post. Mahama's Okada promise hailed. Then to our last headline for today, manifesto promises and matters arising. CityNewsroom.com. NDC's 2020 manifesto will be people-driven, not recycled promises. Ablakwa. CityNewsroom.com. New airports more prudent than dualizing Cape Coast Road. Yofi Grant. City Newsroom. MPP will win 2020 elections by 1.5 million votes. Mark Menu. Daily Graphic. Launch of MPP manifesto. MPP to do more. President. Ghanaian Times. Towards December 2020 polls. Retain MPP in power for 4 more years. President urges Ghanaians. The Chronicle. Cheaper power for industries in next MPP government. Our 2020 manifesto feasible. Upon Chroma. 26 of MPP projects do not exist. Okay, that's another one from the NDC. The Finder. MPP's new agenda unveiled. Leadership of service to transform Ghana. The Chronicle. Akufo-Addo hits back. Mahama doesn't know a good economy. ABC News. We are serious with our manifesto promises. Upon Nkrumah. The Ghanaian Observer. Akufo-Addo, Baumia have done wonders. Kufuor rallies 4 more for Nana. And finally, the Ghanaian Publisher. Cape Coast like Ho2 deserves an airport. Baumia replies critics. So I will quickly introduce my guests, then we'll delve into the discussion proper. So tonight, my guests are Bernard Koku-Avle, who is host of the City Breakfast Show, General Manager of City TV, City FM. Hi Bernard, welcome to the show.
Hello Salam, thank you for having me.
And also Kojo Akoto Boating, Head of New Media, City FM, City TV. Kojo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Salam. How are you?
Very good. I hope you are well too.
I'm great.
Well, so the week has been quite busy. A number of top headlines. We've taken 4: Agyapa, Domi-Fase, Okada legalization and regulating Okada, and then the final one being the MPP manifesto. So then I'll start off from you. What do we know about the Agyapa royalties deal? You know, what really is it? Can you break that down for us?
Well, I think the Minister of Finance tried to do that this evening with his deputy. Civil society also raised questions around it yesterday. One of the tragedies with the way issues develop in Ghana is that when things don't become controversial, people don't get interested. So this thing started in June 2018, but all of us missed it because we had other things to do. And in fact, the day it got to Parliament, we're more interested in Papan than in this issue. I think that was a deliberate deflection for us not to focus on this. So I think we need to apologize to Ghanaians as media that we haven't kept a closer eye on this until now. That's the first point. Second point is that mining has been with us for many years. So anytime you want to do a transaction that involves mining royalties or revenues, it's very emotive and touches a lot of people. That's point number 2. Point number 3, because we're a small open economy, we are a raw material exporting economy, we don't have enough capital to develop. So all our governments have tried to look for money, whether they go to the IMF, they go to the capital markets, and I think from the time of SETEC, they started going to the international bond market to receive money. Typically, these bond market monies you go and get, the interest rates are high, the tenures are not too long, so you put the country in risk of high debt distress. SETEC faces it, Kenofriata faces it. Now, it seems as if one of the things this government wants to do is to look for more capital to develop the country. So they went to talk to the Chinese, and the Chinese said, well, if you can guarantee as part of your bauxite processing proceeds, we'll build you projects with a certain amount of money, the so-called Sino-Hydro deal. So in the same line, the government now says, look, our credit rating is not that great. COVID has come to worsen things. Although this started before COVID, we need access to cheaper source of money above our investment grade. Now, in the global financial markets, there's a method of trying to raise money, which is basically securitizing future flows of revenue, whether it's cocoa proceeds, whether it's proceeds from a state-owned enterprise, whether it's royalties, or whether it's crude oil. You securitize it by guaranteeing that, give me money today. In the next 20 years of guaranteed revenue, I will pay you with those proceeds. Typically, what happens is that because of something called sovereign risk, where a government can change, or a government can say, well, we need our cocoa proceeds, we need our oil, so we can't use it to pay for the project again. You have to typically set up a special purpose vehicle in a country other than the originating country. Okay, so the fact that this is Agyapa has been incorporated in Jersey is not such a big issue for me. It's wholly owned by government. Part of the company will be floated, and then you get the money. So the key to this deal is this. We have formed a company, registered it in a tax haven, because we say we don't want to pay too much tax. We don't want to pay tax. We want a tax-efficient country. That company's main job is to collect our mineral royalties. So they own and collect it for at least 30 years. Now, mineral royalties are payments that mining companies make to governments. That government partly pays to chiefs, and the rest is used for development. So there's a ratio of 25% to 75% that we do. So we have about 14 to 15 mining companies that are actively operating. The government is saying that instead of waiting every year to get $100 million or $120 million from these mining companies as royalties and share between chiefs and government, we'll give the chiefs their part. But now we want to securitize these royalties so we can get money now to do development. That's basically what they want to do. What's the problem with this? Number one, we didn't follow this early enough, so a lot is coming to us as a surprise. Number two, there hasn't been too much transparency around some of the figures fronting this. Number three, these deals are very complex in and of themselves. Everywhere in the world they are done. They are high legal costs. In fact, there are 5 agreements in all. There's an investment agreement, a relationship agreement, a revenue management agreement, an operations management agreement. So they are legally very expensive. That's why in Parliament, somebody was saying that we've already spent about $2 million already. What do we use it for? They are very complex. They are very expensive. Number three, we operate in a political environment which has a lot of suspicion, right? So that's the first problem, lack of transparency, lack of our own interest. Third problem, which is the more important problem, you are going to give out the rights to our royalties to a company for at least 30 years. What gold price did you use to come at the valuation of how much we are supposed to get? Don't forget, all the royalties will be paid except for bauxite, because bauxite is already going to Chinese. So this is minus bauxite. Okay, what gold price, what gold quantities do you use? Because the government is telling us that we're going to raise $500 million, not through debt but through equity. So the company formed, Agyapa, will be worth $1 billion. We'll float half of it on the London and Ghana Stock Exchange, and that equity will be ours to use. Now the question is, if we just waited and took our $100 million every year for the next few years, we'll get about in fact, by some calculations, we'll get about $400 million in the next 2 years from royalties. So why are you giving our royalties out into this company and getting equity of 500 now?
For such a long time.
For such a long time. So that's the second problem. The third problem is, you haven't told us what exactly you're going to use the 500 million to do now, which is so transformative that we can't wait to get the 400 over the next few years. So these are the issues, which is what my interview with the Deputy Finance Minister yesterday tried to explain, and some of the issues have been raised. So I think there are transparency issues, which luckily now we are hearing more, but there are more substantive issues of the length of time that we are giving out these royalties, and also whether the quid pro quo, getting 500 million today versus getting 400 million in the next 3 years. Does it make sense? Number 5, we are in an election season. Yes, they didn't start the project now, but the project started 2 years ago. But if you look at what the people who buy into the company will be looking at, which is why the company was registered abroad. In fact, I need to say that the reason why the company was registered abroad is that people sign an agreement to pay our royalty money straight into that company, so that the government can't say we are going to change. In fact, for the position that to say he may cancel the deal, it raises the sovereign risk. So I'm sure the government is scrambling now that the kind of noises going around this deal doesn't help. So in a nutshell, it's a complicated deal, which is manifesting at a very difficult time because we are close to an election. And because in Ghana, we are not very clear in discussing complex things. We just like shouting across the table. We waited till now before we discussed it. But it's good it's being discussed now. I think that the government needs to provide as much information as possible and bring people along. If they fail to do that, they may have to suspend the deal and wait till after the elections. Whoever wins can decide what to do with it. That's my personal view.
So you talk about the fact that it appeared we didn't have a lot of transparency in this. Government disagrees. Upon Nkrumah says that if government intended to be opaque about it, it wouldn't have taken a law to Parliament to be passed. It wouldn't have debated the matter. It wouldn't have done all the things it did. So though civil society feels that government is being opaque, I mean, they disagree with that.
No, so I'm pointing out that they have raised transparency issues. I think there are trust issues, not transparency necessarily. There are trust issues. The way our politics works and the way governments work and the weakness of Parliament, it makes it very difficult to trust the motive. For example, the whole idea about a tax haven. Anybody who knows anything about such deals will not be surprised that a company registered in Jersey. That's not an issue. You get me? But it's become a major issue because they are registering a private company in a tax haven. WikiLeaks revealed that some big rich people who do opaque things keep money. So it's a trust equity problem, which is exacerbated by the lack of interest all of us had and also a lack of forthrightness with information, which compounds the problem. So it's not really whether government has been transparent or not, whether information. I even wonder whether, apart from the few people speaking on it, the finance minister, his deputy, and the information minister, whether many ministers even understand this deal. Because it's not a very common way of doing things. So it's a very complicated deal which compounds, but I think we should look more at the value for money issues being raised by the likes of Wichi Carter and Kofi Ansah, who are basically saying that your royalty rights are guaranteed rights. Every year you're going to get 100 or something million from 15 companies. Dividends that will be paid to this company, dividends are a function of profit. So dividend is not guaranteed. So if you are looking for money, why are you going to exchange 400 million in 2 years for 500 million now, which may not even come in a guaranteed way? Number 2, you are going to lock yourself in to having to pay back your royalties into this one equity that you have, this entity you've created. How do you know your priorities are not going to change? So your fiscal maneuverability is limited. So you are constraining yourself. So the question is, what at all do you want to do with this 500 million that can't wait? Which is why I say it has to be something transformational. And it has to be something momentous, something that you need to do now to justify why for the next 30 years you're going to be paying your royalties into this company that will be managed offshore. I think that's the question the government needs to answer. And
I think government has also said that over the years we've had royalties from the mineral or from our mining industry. We've not seen, or we can't point to anything in particular what we've used the resources from mining for. And so what this will do is that to give us money at a go that we can use for something that we can point to. I don't know what you think really about that, could you?
Well, if you look at the whole structure, so now we have the Mineral Income Investment Fund, which is the MIIF, which is going to hold the interest of Ghana in the SPV. At the moment, per the structure, because we've not listed, MIIF holds 100% stake in the SPV for the Republic of Ghana. Now, when we list on the Ghana Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange, that's the explanation the government is giving us, because the London Stock Exchange we can get a lot more funding from the London Stock Exchange. Then we can raise capital with which we can do infrastructure. Now, there are some questions that have been asked, which we have also done follow-up interviews on. For example, why take $500 million now when we could take a certain amount of money in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years? But the explanations we've been giving us, if you look at the structure of businesses like this, like Franco-Nevada, like the Wheaton Corporation and all these, is that these businesses end up owning diversified portfolios. So, for example, we have about 11 mines in the country now. We've been told 4 more are coming. And my concern that I've been asking is, all quality is reducing, and the mines are saying their cost of production is going to go high, so it may affect our royalties here. But the explanations we've been given is that because SPVs like this hold diversified portfolios, they can invest in other areas and grow their business. So if you look at a business like Franco-Nevada, which started in 2008, they started with just about, they were bought by Newmont for about, I think, $2 billion. It's gone on right now and is valued at about $19 billion. So the explanation is that if your SPV owns, if the government owns 51% in a company like Agyapa Royalties, and they diversify their portfolios very well and they grow, that is 51% of a future value of, say, $100 billion. And if you are getting dividends in a stake like this, that could mean better returns for the country instead of sticking with our current royalty system that we have.
Which is quite fixed.
Yes, and that we could invest in other African countries and other mining concessions that could get us more results. So that really is what the explanation has been when it comes to why 500 now and not wait to keep collecting our royalties as it is. Because at the moment, we get, say, about $120 million a year from royalties, and it could go high. But why do that now? And the explanation is that we need the capital now to invest. And if you read about...
To invest in what exactly? I think that's what we are not getting.
That's a good question.
Is it development projects?
Yes, we've not been told the specific projects. For example, we knew cocoa securitized for energy, right? Sino-hydro, bauxite, and other, and we've done other similar things, but we've not been told specifically.
The road toll, we also did a road toll.
The road fund thing.
Road fund.
Yes, but we've not been told specifically what this is going to be. But if you check out what the analysis or what the industry is, for example, if you hold a stake in a business like this, because you're not directly investing in mines, you have a limited exposure to capital cost and operating and other costs, right? You also have the benefit of leveraging your gold price and exploration and expansion. At the moment, the Mineral Income Investment Fund, as it is, and Ghana and our royalty systems and the government of Ghana, how can we leverage on whatever we have now and expand into other African countries? Will this SPV enable that? So that's one of the things the government is pushing. And also the fact that we can yield dividends going forward, so that if this SPV grows and expands into a multi-billion-dollar business, we could be getting more returns to fund specific things. So basically, these are some of the things that have come up. The other explanation is also that the other traditional partners in this funding system will not be denied what is due them. The 100% of royalties, 20% will still go to the Minerals Development Fund, which will take care of the traditional authorities.
25.
And the basic things we do.
I think it's 25%.
It's
20.
It's 20%.
20%
It's
to the Mineral Development Fund.
20%
To the Mineral Development Fund.
And let's say
20%.
about 75% to the SPV.
Yes.
The remaining 5, GRA will take their stake in
2.7% or so.
2.5, 2.7, and the remaining will remain with the MIF.
Yes, correct.
So we've been told that the original stakeholders in our mineral revenue system are not going to be denied whatever is due them. If you heard the Vice President very well from Cape Coast, he said the government is going to pass a Mineral Revenue Management Act, just like the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. That may give us a clear idea of how the government is, or governments going forward, are going to manage whatever we are going to get from some of these things.
But given all you are saying, do you think, is it that government did not engage properly? The CSOs have talked about poor consultation, because in 2018 the law was passed. Fast forward 2020, agreement sent to Parliament, and there's controversy. Is it that government did not engage properly, I mean, across the aisle and other key stakeholder groups, or What do you think is accounting for the controversy the way we have it now?
Like Bernard said, and he duly apologized on behalf of the media. You know, usually issues that the media pays attention to are issues that become national conversation. So we didn't really pay attention to this one.
No, is it that the law was passed and we thought it was going to operationalize itself in a certain way, and so now we've seen the agreement, and so we appear to have issues with the agreement? Is that what is generating the controversy, or is it because we just didn't pay attention to the law?
I think that
when
even
it was
the
passed?
law, most of us didn't really pay attention to the law. And so when Asase royalties came up with the controversy of the name Asase, and it had to change to Agyapa, then the trust issue Bernard mentioned came up. Asase, oh, they are cooking a deal for themselves. Because we are talking about the fact that they are cooking a deal for themselves, they've changed to Agyapa. So it's not been something that people have followed to get a full grasp of the issues.
And perhaps some of the names around the deal.
And the names around the deal, that's what has brought about this trust issue. So I think that going forward, the government should engage further. We have the acts which has already been passed by Parliament, so it's in effect. So the government must engage whichever way we can manage this to maximize our returns. We need to do this so that because look, gold is something that has supported our economy for years. If you look at the export contribution of gold, it's big. It's something our economy has run on. So if something like this is generating this kind of controversy, this is a great time for the government to engage all partners so that every stakeholder would understand what is involved in this, how we are going to benefit. If others have other ideas as to how we can tweak things to maximize our returns, why not?
So Bernard, I mean, given how binary a lot of people in our system think, I mean, and we are in an election year, very competitive, at what point should government say, I think I've done enough? I've done enough of consultation. I've done enough of explaining what the deal is to the people, and so I'm ready to go ahead. At what point can we say so? Because certainly we won't have everybody coming to the table agreeing on the same thing. At what point can government say, I've done enough, and I think I've done a good job at consulting everybody, so I'm going ahead with this?
I think government needs to convince the public that the financials make sense. The timing is funny because even though, yes, we are in an election year and it's 3 months to an election, the government can also argue that gold is at an all-time high now. So this is the best time to do this from a financial point of view. I think, if possible, the CSOs must get audience with the government for them to understand the deal in its entirety and throw all their questions. I mean, the government held a press conference today. That suggests that they want to talk to people. Now, typically a press conference, the media will pick one or two things and then go and rebroadcast it. I feel there's 15 CSOs in extractives, led by Steve Mantia, who was a coach of EITI. I think they are well informed enough to represent the average Ghanaian properly. So I think the government needs to have an engagement with the 15 CSOs, answer all their questions, let them debate it. The CSO may even have better ideas, because some of the people behind these CSOs have negotiated our gold stability agreements and renegotiated them. If government sits down with them, they may even find a way of refining the deal to benefit all of us. All of us are looking to develop the country. We have different paths to go to. But I think that on this issue, because it's the first of its kind in this form, we shouldn't rush it through. If they can make audience with the 15 CSOs within the next few days and talk to them, and then we see where we go.
It appears we've set a December target for
if the CSOs make that's the thing. You see, if you go into a conversation with your made-up mind from both sides, it's not right. Government must go and say, okay, what are these guys saying? And this woman also say, what is this deal really about? Let's have a conversation. Steve Mantia and all these people, let them have a conversation. If you have enough smart people in that room and they say, look, Ghana is what we want to protect, our children's future, our finances, and raising revenue. And they also explain what they want to use the money for. And then also remove all the issues around who is the person doing this, what did he get, and all those things. I think we'll make some progress.
So could you, I mean, John Mahama is speaking. I mean, it's NDC, it's either NDC or MPP, at least for the next foreseeable future. He says that he will not respect the agreement. How disconcerting should that be to the investors?
Well, if you're going into an election, if there's somebody who has been president before, and who is a key contender says that I'll not respect an agreement like this, I will cancel it, I'll do A, B, C, D, it will make investors uncomfortable. It happens all the time. It will make investors uncomfortable. But essentially, even former President Mahama must allow himself to have a conversation about this with this government. Because whatever the case is, it's like all the other contracts we've had. And you mentioned PDS, we've had Ameri, we've had a lot of big contract items. Government is a continuum. So whatever this government is going to do now, if you are going to cancel it, if it can be cancelled or whatever, it comes with repercussions. So we should understand what we seek to do as a people and create the best solution that will give us value. Aside that, the bits about the CSOs, I think that they've been acting this way because of the experiences they've had, even with petroleum revenues. There's an act which spells out how we must manage our petroleum revenues. And for years, we've seen governments not sticking directly to that and being disciplined with that. So they've carried their fear from the petroleum revenues to gold royalty and gold revenues. So this is also a lesson to governments that, look, if you go to Parliament to pass a law, as much as possible, try to work within the ambit of that particular law. The abuses make CSOs distrust the government. And so when you want to do any other thing, they know that you will carry forward your behavior from this sector into this other sector, and it will make them agitate.
Very well. So you're still listening to or watching what the papers are saying on City TV. We will return and then delve into the discussion on the military deployment and the land litigation or dispute issues at Domi-Fase. Don't go away.
Election 2020, Ghana makes a choice. Tracking and bringing you reports of the presidential and parliamentary campaigns across the length and breadth of this nation.
Analyzing campaign activities and election data with our panelists on the Voters' Diary.
The Voters' Diary is the most factual, instructive, and balanced election 2020 analysis program on television.
The Voters' Diary every weekday on City TV from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Stay informed on all the relevant issues on election 2020.
Tune into the Voters' Diary. It's Ghana's choice.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back to what the papers are saying. 2 days ago, we heard of some land disputes in Domi-Fase, around the Ubom-Domi-Abra area. We heard that some 2 military officers were beaten by some town folks or some community people because they purportedly were providing protection to one faction to the dispute, that is the Achim-Apejua faction or side of things. The military officers were beaten, they were not happy, they called for reinforcement, and yesterday we hear about 300 military officers with choppers, etc., were in that side of town, roaming from house to house looking for men who might have instigated the beating of their 2 colleagues. We hear that they've been withdrawn from the area, but the town, as we speak, is still deserted. Bernard, I don't know what you know about this, and how did we get here?
You know, we have sown seeds of, we've let the land chaos continue to a point where it will implode in our faces, which is what we're seeing. So the area is really in Ga West, very close to the eastern region. And we are told that historically there have been some issue of dispute about who owns the land. Now, we are in the rule of law. We have a constitution. The law called settled land disputes. So I don't know why soldiers are part of this conversation. Because the army is meant to protect the country against foreign aggression. They have no role in civilian life. This is what the constitution says. We have seen deployments at borders, joint voting. That's a different issue. Now you are having army deployed, whether it's 2 people or 10 soldiers. Question is, was it an official operation? We've had stories we've reviewed in the past 2 years. In fact, even more, where soldiers have been deployed to try and curb galamsey. People say, well, let's bring the military to solve indiscipline. We don't know what you are asking for. Their training doesn't prepare them to deal with civilians in a way that is known to all of us. We have demonized the police service, and we have sort of even corrupted them to a point where they can't be trusted to resolve land disputes. So depending on who has more resources or who has more leverage or who goes first, sometimes the military is deployed to help solve this matter. We are told there's a dispute between, one of the biggest problems in Ghana is land disputes all over the country, which we've not been able to solve, even though we've done lap 1, lap 2, we are threatening to do lap 3. Okay.
And digitizing
now,
land matters.
Couple of things. You've seen 2 soldiers beaten, and had it not been that reporters were there, in fact, from the interviews you had with the MP, we are told that the soldiers were supposedly shooting until their bullets ran out, and the community members wanted to kill them. Just that the media people were there, and therefore somehow people couldn't do whatever they did, and therefore the soldiers now spoke to the media, and then the beating stopped.
And they took the community people took the guns from them.
Yes. Now we are told the military wants to go and retrieve the guns. So they sent 300 soldiers with choppers to retrieve 2 guns. Even though we're in a democracy, first point, I think sometimes the mindset of the military in the way they behave in this democracy is not correct. I think they feel that in certain instances they are above the law. That's completely wrong. Now, you haven't issued a statement about the involvement of the 2 men in this dispute. You haven't told us whether you are officially been asked by the state to do something, or whether you are acting on behalf of one party. We haven't heard a statement. I haven't heard.
One of the officers beating said he wasn't on that. He wasn't. He was what he was doing wasn't criminal. It wasn't
I'm saying
illegal.
that it's forget what he said. He was. It wasn't even a good thing to show him in that state. To see a soldier, somebody who's been trained to defend us, to be beaten by civilians is completely unacceptable, and to have blood on him on live television, completely wrong. Okay, so that's not my interest. My interest is that the military high command, we have a Minister of Defense, we have a Minister of Interior, we have the Chief of Defense Staff, we have the Chief of Army Staff,
National
we
Security,
have Minister of National Security. We haven't heard a statement about this serious issue of 2 soldiers beaten, soldiers involved in a land dispute. Issue a statement and let us know whether this was official or not. You haven't done that. So you are leaving us to speculate. Now then we see 300 or so soldiers, our cameraman and a reporter harassed, asked to delete what they are showing. If what you are doing is official, why are you asking them to delete the picture? Do you understand me? So you haven't issued a statement to clarify the point to calm nerves. Now the whole community has run away. Imagine if 300 soldiers come to Ridge or Cantonment and start going from house to house and people flee. Well, because it's in some bush and because the people are poor, we don't care. Or they go to a place where East Legon, Transaco Valley, and go to house that they are looking for 2 weapons with 300 soldiers. What will people say? So because it's happening in Domi-Fase, you see, I think that sometimes silence and lack of proactive comments on sensitive national issues worsens the situation. We pay people to protect us. Protection is not just shooting enemies. It's making sure that there's no apprehension in the system. We already have an election on our hands. Why should soldiers be involved in a land dispute at any level? If it's official, why don't you tell us? And why don't you let us know what you are going to do there? And why are you taking journalist cameras and deleting pictures from it? And why are community members running away? And why are they telling us that some of them are being beaten? So is this retribution or is an official operation?
Not to hold any brief for the military, but Captain Sou, of course, he wasn't speaking officially for the military, but he's worked with the military before. He said that 2 officers who were beaten did not go there to provide protection for the other side. They were on an Operation Come Life, rounds, and they picked up signals that there were some disputes or something likely to happen there. So they went there. But the town folks did not understand the situation, and so they fought them. People have disputed
how did
that
you know
claim.
they were part of Operation Come
People
Life?
disputed that claim.
Do we know?
That's what we have.
That's what I'm saying. That why hasn't the spokesperson of the military issued a statement to say that the 2 persons who were beaten were part of Operation Come Life? What prevents him from doing that? When people are shown on television with blood on their faces, why haven't they said anything? Do you understand me? We are in a democracy, and the field of democracy is credible information. You can't have a democracy where people don't have information. So if this Captain Sou left the army over 25 years ago, does he speak for the army? Why should he be the one telling you what he thinks about whether the people were there on operation or not? In any case, does the military have a role in land disputes? That's the question. That's the question we have to answer. Do they have a role in settling land disputes, internal land disputes? Okay. Number 2, the response to the beating of the soldiers, who is sanctioning that response? What is the basis for that response? Is it the law of the land or their own law? We've seen on television a whole town flee. Interior Minister hasn't said anything about it. We need to breed confidence in our institutions. People who run institutions may be provoked. Okay? But we need to be professional in the way we respond so that the general populace will have confidence and respect. And I think sometimes we waste too much time. Sometimes we feel that, well, nobody can force us to say anything because, well, we are who we are. I'm not saying come and do an interview. But we've shown on camera 2 soldiers with blood on their faces being beaten. So you can't tell me that this is not a serious national security issue. On the day that the president in the Volta region is explaining why soldiers were deployed to border towns, look at the coincidence. So I don't understand military strategy. But I think that sometimes we all have to behave as if the law, you can only, the law that, you see, I always say that what makes you bigger than me is the law. So if you disrespect that law, then both of us, we don't have anywhere to go. So let's uphold the law. Let's follow the rule of law. Let's use the prescribed systems we've chosen. When people met in 91, we did a referendum in 92 to say we are going for constitution. If constitutionality is what we want, let's abide by it. And the other point is that for land, Kojo knows land more than me. I'm going to land. But I'm just saying that we need clarity from the military hierarchy about what happened. Clarity about what happened.
Very well. So Kojo, for Lavena said, the silence has been very loud. What should officialdom be doing now? I mean, the military, that's the defense, interior. And it's interesting that given that this is an internal dispute, we've not heard anything from the police. Indeed, some of the persons on the ground we spoke to said they called the police station close to their place. They told them
to go to
they did not
place
fall within their
20
jurisdiction, so they should go somewhere else, which was like 20 kilometers away. So it's like they were helpless.
We lost it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that sometimes happens. The issue with the police. The military are carrying out an operation in a civilian enclave, and the police will not release a statement. Interior Ministry is not speaking to it. Defense Ministry is not speaking to it. The key actors, look, if they were Operation Calm Life, right, if you want to calm life, if you want to calm a village or a community, the village has leadership. So if indeed they were on Operation Calm Life duties, I expect them to have engaged the
factions,
the district security coordinators and told them, look, we see this place being a hotspot because of this issue, so we are coming to carry out this operation. The chiefs and the people, so that everybody will know that, well, we are at loggerheads, but we have an intermediary who is going to ensure we don't kill ourselves. If all those people are saying they didn't know any operation like that and are giving us contrary accounts, then the military should set the record straight. That's number one. I think Bernard has exhausted a lot of the things to do with the inconsistencies in that particular area. My biggest problem here is we know that land rights and related matters are a national security issue. And over the years, we've spent money and time and resources in dealing with this. National security, knowing that these things happen, we should have our ears on the ground and picking up signals to deal with some of these issues. This is not the first time we've seen violence related to land rights. People have been killed, people have been maimed, houses demolished, vehicles burnt, and all these issues. So if in 2020 we are still not seeing any proactive steps being taken by the intelligence community in this particular country, national security with all the various allied security services, then we should be worried as a country. Because, Solom, any day, anytime, somebody can rise up and maim you or do anything to you, and the intelligence community would not pick any signals to protect you, but that's their job. And for this thing to happen in a whole town without anybody in the intelligence system getting any information to avert what happened, it tells us that we are not doing that particular job of intelligence and information collection in this country very well. And we need to step up. And all these land issues, let's address them. If you go to the Lands Commission, who owns the rights to those lands? What's the history of the ownership?
The history is important.
If you go into the traditional archives and the history, right? If you talk to historians, what has been the historical ownership of the land? Let the agencies and the law come together to establish these things. And we should as a country be very careful as to how we see the military on our streets every now and again doing some of these things. This is not how we want to enforce law and order. Because if we let the military lose the respect that for some time now the police began to lose, even if they've not lost it, it's not going to be well for us. It's not going to, and we are going into elections. If people know that, look, we can also attack military people anyhow, as we saw on TV, the elections, there will not be that in the minds of people. They can just go about and do whatever they want to do. So the various agencies must speak to this. People who are found culpable, we must investigate this. If they were not sent there to do that job and they went there, beyond the 300 men they took there, they should just find out the truth and apologize where they need to, deal with those they have to deal with, and let the law take its course. It's a land issue. We can investigate and get to the bottom. And nobody should die of land-related issues going for. Look, Sela, we spend so much money on these things. So much money. And we are not seeing any proper returns on the investment we've made in dealing with and regularizing land issues. And so, look, really, the government must sit up and deal with this particular issue.
Very well, thanks, Kojo. So we'll move on to the next subject, the matter of legalizing and regulating the Okada business. Indeed, John Mahama in the week granted an interview to Wezo TV. No, it wasn't the interview. He actually said in the Volta region that he would legalize and regulate the Okada business because, in his view, it has come to stay. As expected, a lot of discussion is come around this debate. People think that it's just to catch votes. Indeed, Yofi Grant said it's shocking that Mahama wants to legalize Okada because of votes. Ambrose Derry, Interior Minister, he has said that he even is questioning Mahama why he did not legalize Okada when he was present. So, Bernard, legalizing it or not, is it that simple?
Well, you know, if you are in a national conversation, you are torn between making it sound like it's legalizing or not legalizing. But I think the answer lies somewhere in between. Because we know that in 2012, we passed the law to make commercial use of motorbikes illegal. Because we know all the dangers. And in fact, Mr. Mahama was the one, if he wasn't the vice or the president, who signed that law. So he needs to tell us what has changed in those 8 years. Number two, he needs to put flesh on it for us to understand when he says he's going to legalize and regulate, what does it mean? Do you get me? So is he going to say it's legal so you can do anything? Or what structures will we put in place to ensure that if we don't make it illegal anymore, it doesn't lead to worse outcomes. I think that one of the things that we like is that at least Ghana, we are discussing these things now. So it's raised, let's discuss it. Let's refine it, because I've seen pictures of even some MPs sitting behind motorbikes. I've heard different people from different sides of the political divide say that they think that you cannot keep Okada illegal forever. I think the solution should be more nuanced, which the NDC is launching a manifesto next week. I think we need to understand how they want to go about it. Because it's not a simple legalize or not illegal. It's what you... I think that even if it's illegal, you can still put in place structures to regulate the way they do it. And even if you are going to legalize it, I think the structures and the implementation and managing that process is more important than simply saying it's legal or illegal.
But people think that when it comes to regulation, we've not done a good job as a country. So, you know, on what basis are we trusting ourselves that on this score we will regulate it and make it work?
But now that it's illegal, people are still doing it. So the problem is not whether it's legal or illegal. The problem is, what measures do you have to put in place to ensure people are safe? What kind of traffic lights do you have? How do you go to Rwanda, where he went? People are supposed to wear helmets. They are supposed to have a certain kind of outer garment. There are rules that are enforced, but we like the grandstanding. Oh, so I'll legalize, I'll not legalize. Those who legalize are for Muhammad, those who are not legalized are for Akufo-Addo. You can't develop like that. Be more nuanced and put in place. You see, change is implemented, it's not announced. You implement change. If you want to change a country, you put in place laws and you police the law. People sit on motorbikes, they don't wear helmets. They don't know how to ride. They don't even get proper licenses. The motorbike is not registered. They don't obey traffic rules. And we are saying we should legalize or not illegal. No. How do you ensure that people ride the bike better? That they can be fined for breaking the rule and that people's lives are protected? That's what we should think about. It's not, oh, let's make it illegal or not illegal. So in Ghana, look, because it's an easy debate to have. It's more nuanced than that. The question should be, how do we make it safe for people to move from place to place in a dignified way in the country and create good incomes and livelihoods for them? That should be the question.
Very well. So could you, so like you said, so what should the regulation entail? Others have said in regulating, you can say, okay, you don't ride into the central business district. You can ride on the outskirts of town and maybe the rural areas, but don't come to town. What should the regulation in this sense mean for us?
That's a good question. If you look at Ghana the way it is now, and you look at the data on vehicles registered in the country, right? Majority of the vehicles are in the urban areas. Now, if you look at our everyday lives, the average Ghanaian does one of three things. You will walk some distance to go and pick a car, and the car will drop you somewhere and you continue to your final destination, or you will walk throughout your destination, or you drive straight from, for some of us who are lucky enough, from your home straight to the office because you have the means. Now, within our built up space, our communities, there are different needs for different people at different economic levels. You understand? So if you say that let's ban one means of transportation because of reason A, B, C, D, you should also think about reasons C, B, D, F, G, why that could still exist, legalized and regulated to give you more returns. The means of transportation for an area of an economy depends on the activities being done and the various factors in place. So, for example, if you come to the Greater Accra region, if you come to the very urbanized areas, the Jolus and the East Legons, and people earn more, so people can afford the various means of transport available, right? If you go to certain other areas, people earn less, one, they do not have a lot of means to travel, and if they have to go by what we feel is the safest form and not the nuisance transportation, they would have to spend all their earnings on just getting to work or getting to school. So you need to look at the various factors to design the mix so that people have it easy. So I'll use some examples. If you're in the UK or the US or any of the built up advanced countries, you have the buses. And because of the way their communities are designed, you stand in front of your apartment block, you can catch a bus to some other place, and then multimodal transport. Then you go and catch the train to some other place. It's connected like that. Now here, we don't have an improved and well-resourced transportation system, such that we cannot just say we can throw away one means of transportation and just do with only one type of transportation. So if you go to the village, and I'll use my village in Kranza there, you will get cars coming regularly to the town only on Tuesdays because it's a market day. Now, if on Tuesday I want to move from Adair to Nkranza Township, I would have to stand by the roadside for about 2-3 hours before I get a ride. And if you get a ride, it's very expensive. Sometimes rainy season, no cars would come there because the roads are terrible. So would you say that people like that cannot use 3-wheelers and 2-wheelers to get to the town? And are we saying that we cannot let the assembly enforce whatever regulations we put in place, such that even if you get to the town, like Greater Accra, if you move from Amrahia, you should not be able to take an Okada, say, all the way to the Central Business District. Because beyond Amrahia, when you get to Fafrahia and all those places, you may get a Trotsky or a Metro bus transport to bring you to the CBD. So we should look at the mixes, the uses, the areas, the geographical areas, to create a system that works for all of us. At the moment, there is no way you can say you ban Okada outrightly, and be right on the side of a lot of these people in the rural areas and other places that don't have the luxuries that we have in the city. An argument is made that a lot of people are dying from Okadas, a lot of people are dying from this. It's true, but if you look at the data really well, majority of people who die through road crashes are pedestrians. They're not even people in any vehicle. There are people who just walking by the road or crossing the road. They get hit by vehicles and they die. Majority of people who get injured through road crashes or accidents are pedestrians. Because our system is not designed safe enough for the person. We do not design roads and transportation system for people. We always design only for cars. That's how come you cannot even ride out in your neighborhood on a bicycle. So it's a bigger conversation of transportation planning and safety, and taking into consideration every other unit of our nation system. You understand?
Very well.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if you have any concluding remarks on this point. You know, the way forward on this. I know he's said a lot. What should you be looking at?
Well,
it's certainly a more nuanced discussion.
Let the people of Ghana decide. That's what we want. We want people to promise, so they will promise. So people should vote and decide what they want.
Okay. So this is how we conclude today's edition of What the Papers Are Saying. My guests today have been Bernard Kokuable, host of the City Breakfast Show, every weekday from 6:30 or 6:20 to 10 a.m. And is also, when he's not on air, he's the general manager of City FM, City TV. And Kojo Akoto Boating is also head of new media here at City FM, City TV, and also a co-host of the City Breakfast Show. My name is Salom Adunu. See you again next time.
Hello, sisters. I've been seeing a guy a little over 3 months now. He seemed to like me a lot initially, but he's beginning to withdraw because he feels I'm not expressive and fun-loving. It's partly true, though, but I've told him several times that I was brought up in a way that made me timid, and I'm only now learning to overcome it. He finds it difficult to believe because we're friends and we've been friends for a long time before he started showing interest in me. He feels we've known each other for too long for me to still feel that way around him. The truth is, I love fun. I just don't know how to express it. I'm trying to improve, but it's hard, and he doesn't understand. I feel like letting him go so I can focus on myself, but I also feel I need to talk to him again. I've noticed he's been talking to his ex a lot and some other person lately. I see how they vibe, exactly how he wants me to be, and I'm worried. What should I do?
I mean, relationship is about two imperfect people coming together.
Sometimes it's best when you leave friendship the way it is.
Trust me, someone will come along and love just the way you are.
Sisters, proudly brought to you by Vodafone Ghana. The future is exciting. Ready?